The tactics used by ISIS and other terrorist groups are evolving. They're getting more resourceful and creative. Vehicle ramming is quickly becoming one of the most common forms of attacks. We've seen this in Nice, France, Columbus, Ohio, Berlin, London, Stockholm. Vehicle barriers are the first line of defense against these attacks. For the past 2 decades, K12 Defense has been installing, servicing, and retrofitting all types of hydraulic vehicle barriers all around the globe. We've retrofitted these types of barriers and have spent the past 6 or 7 years developing a retrofit for bollard barriers that is finally ready. As we work on these barriers, we find the same issues all the time. There's hydraulic oil leaks. These leaks can occur inside the control cabinet, inside the barrier itself, or in the lines between the barrier and cabinet. They affect barrier operation and are harmful on the environment. They're also not energy efficient because they have to maintain constant pressure. There's limited control. Ever notice how they're slower when it's cold out and faster when it's warm? You have to manually adjust valves to change speed, but then they're going too fast or slow when the weather changes again. And finally, they're not completely secure. If pressure drops, there's nothing keeping the barriers up. It's crazy to me how just recently we visited some federal buildings and 50% of them weren't even using the barriers because of problems that they were having. Many of these barriers were installed in the wake of 9/11 and are due to be replaced. Even if they're newer, many of them are so problematic that they're not being used. When this happens, typically barriers will be either rebuilt, which consists of replacing the old internal hydraulic components with new ones, or they're replaced, preferably by a new, more efficient electric system. There's pros and cons to each approach. With rebuilding, the system's still oil-based, and it's prone to maintenance issues. However, you save money compared to ripping and replacing the barrier. And you don't experience a lot of downtime. It takes just a couple of days to rebuild a system. With the new electric system, you get rid of the oil, so it's much less prone to maintenance. The downside is that it's very costly and involves construction and downtime. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to rip and replace a vehicle barrier. Now that's where our unique solution fits in. It's got all of the benefits of an electric system without all of its disadvantages. Because it's an electromechanical retrofit, it's more like rebuilding the system. This is a picture of our Sealed Actuating Unit, or SAU. It's a pin-for-pin replacement of the hydraulic cylinder in a bollard barrier. The hydraulics are completely eliminated. Oil-free means virtually maintenance-free. This new system is energy efficient. It requires less power to activate the barrier. The system is programmed instead of pressurized. There's a slowdown programmed into the system so that the barrier doesn't slam at the top or at the bottom when raising or lowering. And finally, it has fail-safe locks. These locks hold the barrier in place even when power goes out. In fact, power has to be applied to disengage the lock. In addition, our programming provides more insight, including time-date stamping, and overall is more reliable than the existing hydraulic barriers at many of these facilities today.